All right, I'm going to read just one page out of this book, The Power of Nutrition. And this is the action of alcohol on man. And this was in Dornoch on August the 1st in 1923. So 101 years ago. It says Dr. Steiner has asked a question concerning the action of alcohol and its harmful effects on the human organism. Action. See, the word action takes on so many definitions when it comes to the anatomy. It says the effect of alcohol is clearly visible precisely because this substance acts on something which we have described many times, on the whole constitution of the soul. In a man who drinks alcohol, the first visible manifestation is the arising of a state of mental confusion, which exposes him primarily to the passions that usually exist in him, but in an attenuated form, since they can be controlled by reason. When a man does not drink alcohol, he shows a higher degree of reasonableness than when he does. Alcohol also has a stimulating effect on the blood, and this causes an increase in the circulation of the blood, which in turn influences the life of feeling in a man, so that he will be more easily angered, whereas he usually succeeds in repressing this motion in him. You see, therefore, that the first effect exerted by alcohol upon man affects his rational and especially his emotional life. When alcohol remains in the organism for a certain period of time, it causes a symptom which is well known to you, the headache one gets after a hangover. The very onset of this symptom shows you, however, that the entire organism is naturally predisposed to resist the effects of alcohol. Why does a man find himself suffering from this headache? Let us suppose that one evening he gets drunk. The next day he wakes up with a severe headache as a result of the hangover. For the length of time he has been drunk, his blood has had more intense motion than usual, and the man has consumed a lot of energy, quickly putting his body into motion, while in a normal situation this would have happened much more slowly. Therefore, observe this fact very carefully. Let us suppose that the body performs a certain activity in 24 hours. If a person, however, needs to drink a certain amount of wine, he will perform this activity perhaps even in 12 or 6 hours. This is because the body takes away internal energy. This is why people who are used to having a hangover every now and then instinctively eat a lot after drinking, because the headache sets in. Why do they do this? The reason is as follows. By eating a lot, the headache is completely avoided, or it is felt, but with less intensity. And in this way, the next day you will be able to work as usual. So what happens if a person eats a roasted sausage after a hangover? It puts the body back into activity and replaces what was consumed as a result of the action of that energy in too short a period of time. If, however, this person is not particularly familiar with drinking and forgets to eat the roasted sausage, he will get a headache, and this is because his body will no longer be able to exercise a higher activity inwardly. Under such conditions, it often happens that the activity is not exercised properly, and then waste products will be deposited everywhere in the form of uric acid. This will be deposited especially in the head, since it is more sensitive than other organs, and in this sense more difficult to support. Thus, a man who at night has consumed his inner physical energy by drinking alcohol will the next morning have deposited in his head what should normally be in the bowels, his feces. This has the consequence that the body will immediately revolt when asked to perform excessive activity due to alcohol consumption. As I have already told you in other lectures, man is actually able to tolerate much more than is usually assumed. And I do not mean this only in connection with alcohol, but in general. This situation, on the other hand, can be balanced over a long period of time. In some people, you will even find a very suspicious and illusory antidote to the headache following a hangover. What will these people do if they wake up in the morning with a very strong headache or return home again unable to work? Perhaps you have already experienced it for yourselves. The next morning they will continue to drink, making the middle of the morning a special cure. In short, they will continue to give themselves over to alcohol. Let us observe the consequences. During the night, the blood has undergone a particular agitation and the body has been deprived of a certain amount of energy. It is therefore normal that in the morning this energy will be lacking. If, however, one continues to drink more alcohol, the effect will be to stimulate the organism again so that the last residue of energy still available to man will be exhausted. He can indeed remove most of the feces, which causes the almost complete disappearance of the headache. But they remain in the rest of the body all the more, only that here people feel them to a much lesser extent. Those who ward off the headache by continuing to drink are in the worst situation, as me, since little by little, if this is repeated, the whole body is ruined. There it is. There, we just read what it does. It's right there. Wonder, like, I'm going to do some videos with this and post it on Facebook because around Chattanooga, everybody knows about Matt Childs. I blasted Chattanooga in the news and all of them. And I said, if you're fair and balanced, then you're going to give me an opportunity to read some of this and talk about satanic gematria on the broadcast. Remember, you only fight black magic with black magic. So, I don't want to read too much because here in a little bit we'll come back. It says, let us observe the consequences. During the night, the blood has undergone a particular agitation of the blood. We've got there and the whole body is ruined. However, due to the fact that man has a high degree of tolerance of what disturbs the functioning of certain balances in his body, it is almost impossible for the organism to be completely ruined in a short time. Therefore, in a habitual drinker, there will first appear a sort of delirium called the drinker's delirium, which, however, does not yet determine the complete ruin of the health of his organism. When the so-called delirium tremens, as it is called in medicine, occurs, the persons in question see animals running all around them. For example, this is hallucinations. This is a long time ago. And are seized with persecution mania. That's an alcoholic AA, racing thoughts. You got all this shit going in you. Delirium tremens is connected with the feeling of being chased by demons, basically. It is even possible to find historical evidence of this fact. There are, in fact, the so-called mouse prisons, which derive their name from the fact that in past times someone was imprisoned there who suffered from persecution mania and believed to be tormented by certain unseen animals. These people imagined to see thousands and thousands of mice all around them, which was not at all true. You see, therefore, that when man is ruined by alcohol, it becomes difficult even to make the body assimilate completely the effects that the negative act of drinking brings with it. The organism, in fact, opposes absolutely for a long period of time the imbalances that are created by alcohol. The most interesting thing to note is that consciousness is then awakened in these people. Let us suppose that someone has been drunk for a period of time and every morning after his hangover he has continued to do so. Then let us suppose that suddenly consciousness awakens in him and he decides to stop drinking. As a consequence of the fact that he still has some energy left that enables him to do so. What happens then? If this person has not suffered until now from the delirium of drinkers, he will acquire it now. Here is the most interesting thing to note. Sometimes it happens that someone who has been drinking for a long time, once he stops drinking, acquires delirium precisely at this stage. Of course, you're cutting it off. This is one of the principal indications of the fact that it must be considered that in man the head acts differently from the rest of the body, which, moreover, I have already treated of the last few lectures on many phenomena. As long as man feels the consequences of his disease as a drinker in his head, he may be said to be doing reasonably well, because they are not detectable in the rest of the body. See, the head controls everything. These games are brain exercises on the phone. So, truthfully, the obesity and all these people in the news stations saying, oh no, it's good. They're destroying, they are terrorists to these fucking people. It's the same thing what the screens do is alcohol. It's the same exact thing. When, however, the effects of alcohol have already reached the whole organism or screens, and at this stage the man decides to dishabit alcohol, all the more reason why the rest of the body will turn, focusing its action upwards at the level of the head. And this will result in the man acquiring the delirium of drinkers precisely because of his disabuse of alcohol. It is possible to affirm that in the blood of man there is a counterpart for the most important soul phenomenon. You probably know that some people who suffer from persecutory mania believe that they see figures that do not exist. In past ages, such people received bloodletting, and this was a very healthy cure. One should not believe, as it is assumed today, that people were once superstitious. For bloodletting is not something that originated from superstition. People who suffered from mania were bled by applying leeches somewhere on their bodies, which had the function of draining their blood. In this way, the blood slowed down its excessive activity. In ancient times, however, bloodletting was not used to cure drinkers, but it was used in other attacks of madness, and it was precisely this effect that arose because the blood circulated more normally. There were benefits. Now, I'll stop right there because I've got to go do some pressure washing and shit, and we'll finish this chapter. It's right when you think you're done listening and reading what he's got. Nope. What was in him countered the Jesuits and these demons and said they couldn't touch him. They had to let it go. They couldn't do it. They had to let it go. And everything just smashed their fucking faces. And then they couldn't look at it. Some of them couldn't look at it. Sort of like how me and you can't look at their black magic. Well, they couldn't look at his shit. So they created their own Jesuit demons to go inside, go through, extract things, and then re-fuck them up. And then it's your architecture and everything and housing and shit. And a lot of these musical places and these domes and shit. That's because of him. Yeah, it doesn't matter. Medicine, they fucked it all up and turned it into pills and shit. Because of him. So without us, this fucking satanic demon can't do what it's done. Without us. Let me say it again because it pisses them off when you say that. Without us. Not Goy. Without us. Without the unseen up there. That's what we are. We represent every fucking orb up there. And every life form out there is who we represent. And see, think about telling the news. Let me read this on the news station. What do you think would happen? Well, for one, see, this alcoholic demon, Al-khul, it controls everything. So when the blood's running faster and everybody's drinking at night and peeled up and everything, you create fucking demons. And they're obeying everything. Just give me my shit. Demons. Be back shortly. I love you.